Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. I'm Ian Stone.
I'm Neil Munro.
So today we're excited, very excited. This is a culmination of a lot of work over the last few years, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've kind of brought something together which is...
It's unheard of.
I don't think it's ever been done before.
It hasn't. It's just amazing. I mean, it's the UK's only documented and fully systemised asbestos management process. And that's what we're launching today with this podcast. It's going live. It's out there. It's living and breathing and helping people.
Yeah. And so to give you a bit of background, it kind of comes from a place where similar sort of vein to what we've been trying to achieve through our book and our podcasts and our other kind of media activities is it's kind of like the trouble with asbestos and asbestos information is there's a lot out there. There's lots of different documents all spread across various different lines of communication. And again, when you actually read that information, it's kind of hard to decipher. And actually, some of it is out of date.
Yes,
if you actually read some of the current, which are still in place, guidance documents, they're out of date.
Yeah, and there's guidance that has been put together by the Health and Safety Executive for the one about surveys, one for analysts, one for contractors to use, and they're all great bits of information. They do help and kind of go some way to deciphering stuff. But the problem is, like you said, they were published based on the old 2006 car regulations, control asbestos regulations.
Yeah, and this guy still refers to the 2002.
Yeah, so we've got stuff now that's relating to regulations that they've changed, but the HC haven't updated that. And the problem is when you're trying to find out about asbestos and learn and try and actually get compliant, again, you can end up in that minefield because there's documents out there that you can download today from the Health and Safety Executive website and their own stuff is out of date.
Yeah. Yeah. And now there is kind of guides for asbestos management, but they're only guides and they only kind of really provide information of likely what you they don't even tell you what you should do. It's kind of giving you guidance on information which you should look at. Perhaps you should do X, Y, and Z. However, there's never been a documented process.
No, not a definitive.
Follow.
There's not a definitive A to Z or a definitive map of you start here, you do this, you're sorted. There hasn't been one, has there?
No, definitely not.
And that is what we've put together, which is the Acorn Asbestos Antidote.
Yep, that's the hole that we've tried to fill within that plethora of information.
So, like I said, we've launched it. It's out there. We've been using this with clients for some time, but we're kind of going global with it now and really pushing it out there to help more people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we wanted to run through it and explain a bit more about it and some of the information in it. And if this sounds good to you and at any point you think, do you know what, I want to get my hands on a copy of that, then you can contact us, request a copy of the Acorn Asbestos Antidote, and we'll send you one out in the post. No problem. And also, if at any point you're thinking, do you know what, I do want to jump on a call and have a strategy session, then again, you can contact us and request that. And in the antidote that we'll send you, it explains how to go about and how to contact us and book your strategy call in.
Yeah. So the premise behind it is basically the purpose of this is kind of to take you from a place of non-compliance and with the risk of asbestos exposure, prosecutions and fines. And it's going to take you to full compliance, which prevents the exposure, prevents the prosecution and keeps you and your building occupants safe.
Exactly that. And it's all about just removing that asbestos headache and the issues that are around asbestos.
Yeah. So kind of the question that we like to ask every client is, how do you know if you need help?
Exactly.
That's the number one question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's probably the number one issue that people face, and we face as consultants trying to advise people about asbestos management, is the awareness of, have you got an issue? Do I even need to do something? And again, I know we've said this many, many times on podcasts. It still amazes me, clients coming to us for the first time and they've only just found out that they actually need to do something about asbestos.
Exactly that.
And this is kind of like what we've got a scale of awareness, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, we have put an awareness scale together just to kind of, again, simplify it, and it helps you understand where you're currently sitting. And I mean, with that, there's kind of a consequence rating that goes with it. So the worst end of the scale is the unconscious level. And that's basically where you would sit. If you're unaware of the skills, knowledge, or proficiency for asbestos management, you haven't done anything, you've got no clue about it whatsoever. And that correlates with the consequence rating of your risk of asbestos exposure, prosecutions, and fines.
It's maximum.
It's through the roof. It's maximum. If you're sitting on the unconscious end of that scale, you're also sitting at the top of the consequence scale of something happening and going wrong that could affect you or your workforce.
Yeah. And then the next one we step on is the conscious. So you're aware of the skills and knowledge for asbestos management, but you're not proficient.
Yeah.
So kind of you've got an idea, but you just don't know. Don't know exactly what you need to do, and you don't know how to do it.
Exactly. It's kind of, you're aware asbestos is an issue. You're aware you've got to do something, but you're not in the asbestos game. You're not trained. You're not a consultant and that kind of level. You're I don't know, perhaps you've been shafted by your boss to get asbestos fixed within the portfolio of properties. Yeah.
And the next one we jump to is competent, isn't it? So you're able to manage asbestos, but this is kind of the second sort of biggest issue that a lot of our clients face. You just haven't got the time or effort to do it.
No.
You've got to do stuff. You've got to get stuff done, but you just haven't got the time on top of your everyday job.
And that's it.
To get this done.
A lot of people have a job to do and then they get given asbestos to manage as well. It's like a little bolt-on.
Yeah.
And depending on what risks you've got and how many properties and all the rest of it, that can range from merely an hour a week or something all the way through to its own full-time position.
Yeah.
And also, if you're at the point where nothing's happened, well, to get you to that point is a big uphill struggle. And
so here's the goal.
Yeah, the next one is the goal. I mean, before I move on to that one, what I was just going to say was, in the consequence rating, it's kind of, for those, the first two, unconscious, you're at the kind of precipice of issues happening.
Yeah.
When you get to the competent stage, you've got things in place. You are aware, you've got things in place, but the problem is it needs managing on day to day, day in, day out. Everything with asbestos needs handling.
Yeah.
So
your plates are spinning.
Yeah, which is great because it means you are actively doing stuff, but that's the issue as well, because for your asbestos management to work properly and efficiently, you need to be involved in every single step, which, again, that's when things can fall down. So yeah, the ultimate goal is to get you to the auto competence level, which asbestos management performs essentially automatically without input.
Yeah.
It's a fully working system which will help you avoid prosecution. It saves your reputation. It keeps you and everybody else safe. And when you get your asbestos management to that auto competence level, that is asbestos management heaven.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be involved with it day in and day out. You've got a system that is working and doing all of the hard work for you. And that's where we get you to through the Acorn Asbestos Antidote.
That's the actual ultimate goal, isn't it?
It is. So how do we do it? What are the steps?
So what is the Acorn Asbestos Antidote? It's a kind of a 5-step process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of talk you through those 5 different steps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 5 stages. It's diagnosis is stage 1, which is the what, where and how. Stage 2 is the identification stage, which is the doing and the finding out stage. Stage 3 is the treatment stage, which is the doing and the fixing stage. Stage 4 is education, which is the training and implementation stage. And then stage 5 is the health check and the ongoing and regular check stage. And again, we've kind of correlated that against the consequence rating. And when you start off, yes, you are at the kind of riskier end of the scale. But as you move through this process, your kind of risk aversion gets better. And by the time you get to the 5th and final stage, then, like we say, that is when you can sleep easy at night in bed, knowing that everything is being done properly. You kind of don't have those worries in your head anymore of, oh, what happens if the health and safety turn up? Am I going to get fined? Is everything going okay? Are people doing what I've got in place? It's kind of when you get through that stage, that's when it brings it all together, really.
Yeah. And having that systemised process has really benefited the clients that we've put already through this. The fear factor that we kind of found out from clients is the actual unknown.
Yes.
It's the unknown information. It's the unknown what you need to do. It's the unknown what's going to be coming around the corner, what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, etc. So it's having this step-by-step process that you can follow means that you know where you are, you know if you get a visit, you know what you can explain what you're doing and how you're managing your asbestos safely.
And also with that, it's a whipping post that clients can use for us, and they know what's coming
exactly
next.
They
know where they're at.
Yes.
And the thing is, I want to explain about why this is different to what other consultancies do. So other consultancies out there will be able to assist you with asbestos management. However, I guarantee none of them have got this system set out in this way. And you'll go and have a conversation with an asbestos consultant, and it will go something like this. I've got a property portfolio. I've done nothing with asbestos. Can you help me? Okay, yeah, no problem. Can we have a list? And off the back of that, they'll provide you with a quote for some surveys. They'll go out and do the surveys. And depending on the consultant, they may then come to you and say, look, with this asbestos needs dealing with, do you want us to give you a hand with that or not? Or do you want to get prices yourself? And to be honest, that is predominantly where normal consultancy stops. And it's only when...
then they might go, oh, by the way, you might need a management plan as well. Have you got that?
Yeah. But do you know what? I still don't believe there's many people out there advising.
There'll be some.
Yeah, you're right. There are some. Yeah, so I suppose you get to the end of that process and they'll go, oh, yeah, we'll charge you X for doing a management plan for you.
Yeah.
And then that'll be it. You'll be left. And then if you're lucky, a year later, if you're lucky, they'll contact you and go, oh, do you want us to do a re-inspection? And that's it. That's the crux of asbestos consultancy, which is going on day in and day out in this country, and it's not good enough. And that's why we put this together. So we'll run through this, the 5 stages, and explain exactly in detail what we're doing and why we do it. And then it should become clear of why this is the only framework that exists that you really can use.
So stage 1 then, the diagnosis. So diagnosis, this is the opportunity for us to find out about you.
Yeah.
So we need to find out all the information about you, your properties, your processes, how you work, how you interact, and how you communicate. And it's also an opportunity for you to discover about us.
Yeah.
And if we're a right fit for each other. We'll undertake an audit, so a full audit of all your documentation, find out about your sites, your personnel, how you communicate internally, any processes that you have, that how your business works. And then we put all that information and collate it all together and give you the results back on what the next steps are, where you are with your asbestos compliance.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to go back to the about you and about us stage. Now, for me, that's really important because if you pick up the phone to someone and say, oh, can you help me? They'll go, yeah, no problem. I can help you. However, unless you've actually taken the time to kind of build that relationship and understand each other, it's pointless.
Yeah.
And we kind of, with the about you stage, we want to know, it's not just about like the day-to-day stuff. It's like commercially, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are your goals as a business? And how can we assist you? Are we aligned with you? Are your goals aligned with our goals as a company? Because if they're not, then straight away there's going to be
It's going to be conflict.
Yeah, and there is a conflict. And at that point, if we aren't aligned, then for me personally, I would rather walk away from trying to help you, because then you're essentially trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So that is massive. So instead of just, like I say, picking up the phone, speaking to someone, because the problem with anything is, yeah, I'll help you because I'm charging you for it.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, to get asbestos management bang on, you need to have that basis of a good working relationship.
Yeah, one size doesn't fit all.
No.
And the diagnosis stage is, really what sets it off and shapes the process really of where you need to go, because everyone's going to be in a different stage of asbestos management. You have different information, so it really does shape the way the next stages follow.
Yeah, and when we present the results at the end, the results are presented not in just an Excel spreadsheet with a cost on the bottom. It's presented in a full report format, so you can look at that and review and see what we've reviewed, see what we've taken into consideration, see where and how we've kind of grown our opinion of you as a business, what you've got that's good, what you've got that's bad, and where you need to go next. And that then usually leads on to stage 2, which is identification stage, which a lot of the time is a mixture of carrying out management surveys and re-inspections. A lot of the time, though, as part of the review, we'll identify that surveys were either out of date or not up to current standards. So a lot of the time, like we're saying, that does lead to the identification stage. And that's where we'll program in the surveys that are needed. And again, this goes back to how we know about you as a business. So we will plan to work around you as a business on what days can we come to site, what hours can we come to site, what do we need to be doing and bringing to site to make sure that we're fully compliant with your regulations on your site, let alone the asbestos stuff. We need to make sure that whatever you wanted us to do to meet your requirements, we're doing. And as part of the identification stage, we identify the asbestos, we record the information, we assess that information, and then that goes together to form part of your asbestos management plan. And again, this is where we're collating information and we're presenting it back to you and discussing it with you along these steps to make sure that what we are doing is in line with what you want and in line with your business and your goals.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to add to that, because as part of the diagnosis stage, it's finding out about how you work and what information that you may require in the future. So that leads on to the identification on how we record the information. So you might have specific requirements that we've identified during diagnosis for how you want that information, the asbestos information, recorded and presented back to you. That's really important because different clients have different requirements for the information. If you take a hospital, for example, they really need to drill down to the asbestos information, room by room, location by location, exactly pinpointing every single piece of asbestos. Some clients don't require that much data and actually don't want that much data. They just want an overview and they want it presented in highlighted format. So yeah, that really is really important. So whatever we've diagnosed, we then leads into identification and that information is reported back to you.
And with the reports as well, I mean, in this day and age, we can create any report in any format of how you want it.
Yeah.
So if you want our information presented to you in a similar way that your stuff is presented to your staff already or your clients, that kind of thing, we can change the report format to be identical to your report formatting.
Yeah.
Which again, that gives that consistency and that ties in with the fact that we are aligned with you and you're not presenting something like weird and wonderful that nobody's ever seen.
Yeah.
If you've already got other reports from other companies on similar health and safety things or risk assessments or anything, it can be presented to you and your workforce in a similar format.
Yeah, to give you an example, analytical people like to look at spreadsheets, so we can present the information in a spreadsheet. Sort of visual people like to look at photos. we can make the photos bigger. We can make the report include more photos if you want to. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4 photos per location. It's up to you. That's a really important point to sort of highlight, that those conversations should have already happened. So by the time we're surveying, that information is already there, and we're getting it right, and we're presenting it back to you in the format that you want.
Yeah, exactly that. And a lot of the time, the stage 2 leads to stage 3, which is the treatment stage. We will find asbestos a lot of the time. The amount of asbestos we used in this country is phenomenal, and it's everywhere. Lots of buildings throughout the UK have either been built with it or had it added in over the years. And that's why stage 3 is the treatment phase. And again, this will kind of go back to original conversations, but then we'll revisit it and we'll consult with you on a site by site and a location by location basis. And we'll review all of the asbestos that's been identified, and whether it needs removing, encapsulating, or if we could do something else, like can we just leave it alone, lock the room, put signs on the door and manage it that way. This is when we'll look at it location by location. And again, this goes back to, what are your goals as a company? Some companies that we work with have the approach of, I literally want all the asbestos from my portfolio, from all of my stock, gone, removed, out of my hair.
Yeah.
So we know from day dot, that's the ultimate goal. So when we know they want it all gone, literally stage 3, that's what we do. We provide a specification to contractors. We prepare a full spec that covers the works, but also the kind of the soft things that go into, same as what I said on the stage 2, which is, when can we work? When are your busy periods? When are your quiet periods? Do you want us to come at Christmas because Christmas is the quietest? Or do you not want us to come at Christmas because that's your busy period? Again, this is the information we will have found out and identified that then goes into creating the right specification for the works.
Yeah.
And we'll tender the works, we'll review the tenders that come back from our approved contractors. Now, our approved contractor list changes. We constantly monitor, audit, inspect, and make sure our contractors are up to scratch. And when they're not up to scratch, we get rid of them. So our list is constantly evolving and changing, and they know this. And we have got a core bunch of contractors that we work with and we use. And also with that, we use specific contractors for specific jobs, because over the years, we've got to understand and kind of know and realise who's better at what type of job and what scale of job, and also where in the country.
Yeah, and that really does affect the price as well, doesn't it?
It does.
Because what tends to happen, if the contractor's not experienced carrying out a certain project, they'll tend to cover themselves for it.
Yes.
So, the price will increase because they're not sure, they're not confident, so they want to be careful that they don't end up getting burnt. So that's a really important point.
So yeah, with that, the tender and review, it's carried out, and once we're happy, we've received decent tenders back from the contractors and that they fully understand what your end goal is with the project, we'll then present that back to you. You push the button, we then program and execute those works. And when we carry out those works, we're on site, we're on hand, we manage those works all the way through. We carry out air monitoring all the way through to ensure everybody's safe. And once we've completed that element of work, what we then do is collate all of the paperwork, all of the information that's been part of that project, and we package it up into a final project completion pack, which gives you full information from literally beginning to end of the project.
Okay, so once stage 3 is completed, we then move to stage 4, which is all about education. Education is about spreading the word about asbestos the right way. It's about educating you, your team, your contractors, your external contractors that you use, about how you safely manage asbestos. It's undertaking the dedicated asbestos awareness training for anyone that requires it, any management training for people and personnel that require that. It's all about providing the information so asbestos doesn't become or isn't a secret.
Yes, and that's the key of not keeping it a secret.
Yeah,
because when education is done right, then it can be rolled out as a tool that empowers people within your business, your organisation, and it helps manage it and it makes it easier.
Yeah. And the beauty about doing it at this stage is you're now at a point where you basically know where you are. You know, you're at a point in the sand where you've diagnosed, you've identified, and you've treated all your asbestos. This is a good point to now roll out the whole system, roll out the training to everyone to make them aware of the dangers of asbestos, to make them aware of where the locations of asbestos are in your properties and how the procedures and how the management plan actually works and the systems that they need to follow to keep everyone safe on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, this is really the drawing a line in the sand moment, and everything that's gone before has happened before, but now you're at the stage where everything is fixed and sorted, and essentially you're at the starting line of the race, and it's like, right, we're now going to educate you and then go.
Yeah.
But along with that, and as well as the awareness training about asbestos and stuff, it's also vital, and this is what we incorporate into the education, is the training about your asbestos management plan and your system that you have in place and how it works across all the sites and how each different person needs to kind of interact, because I don't know, a maintenance department needs to interact with the asbestos management plan a hell of a lot more than, say, I don't know, somebody who just works within that building. But everybody, each and their own, have got their own obligations and responsibilities to make sure that the asbestos is safe. And also part of that training will incorporate database training to not only give people the tools of how they can manipulate and use the system, but it gives them the overall kind of responsibility. Again, it empowers them to fully understand how the system works. It takes that kind of, it demystifies, it gets rid of the smoke out of the way of, oh, well, I don't really know how to use this new system or whatever. Well, by the time we've done the education, you know about the asbestos, you know about the management plan and how it affects your business, and you know how the database and system actually works. And at that point, it's kind of business as usual for a length of period. Now, a lot of the times when we move to stage 5, which is the health check, we'll carry this out annually as a minimum. Most of the time it is annually for a lot of clients. Sometimes there's the odd site where we do re-inspections and things like that on a more regular basis.
Yeah, depending on the risk factor.
Exactly that. And that's it. Again, this is something we will discuss with you, and you will be fully aware of when the re-inspections are due and the reasons why they're due at those points. And the asbestos re-inspection, so this is the point where our surveyors will come to your site, look at the asbestos information that we've got, that we know where the asbestos is. We'll go and physically check that asbestos material and look for signs of deterioration or damage or anything that may affect the works. And along with that, at the same time as the re-inspection, we also carry out an asbestos management plan audit. Now, again, rarely in the industry is anybody doing this. And the asbestos management plan audit is to kind of, again, this is the kind of break point that we can review everything. So over the last however long, we've been putting all this information together, and this is the check that everything that is in place, is it working? So for the management plan audit, we would check things like the contractor's register. Has it been used? Are people signing in and signing out? We'd check your database. Are contractors logging in and checking the asbestos information prior to working? Are your, facilities or reception, are they checking that the contractors coming to site, are they taking copies and identifying that they have asbestos awareness training themselves? Because ultimately, all of this is what goes together to give you that confidence in asbestos management.
Yeah, because all best intentions, you can plan the best job, but does it actually physically work in reality?
Once it's rolled out, is it actually working?
Are these procedures that have been put in place, do they actually work, and are they fit for purpose? And it's at these points where you get that regular review of, yes, these procedures, this management plan is actually working, because we've got the evidence to prove it.
And the beauty of stage 5 is the fact of, if we find something isn't working, it's okay. At that point, we can then retweak and rework on the issues of something hasn't gone right. And perhaps, I don't know, it could be additional training for your staff. It could be a rejig of actually how we manage asbestos through the management plan. And likewise, if we identify that asbestos has been damaged or it has deteriorated, again, there's no issue here. All we do, we simply take the works that are now needed and we roll it back to stage 3, which is treatment stage, and then we redo that process to get it back up to where we just need to do the health check again. And then ultimately, that is what we do year on year. So that is when you know how your asbestos is managed, how it looks, how it works, and it's just that rolling program that you don't have to think about ever again. You don't have to have that constant fear of something not happening on site because we've identified everything. We've rolled it out. It's now working. We've proved it's working. And when we identify something that either has gone wrong or has deteriorated, it gets picked up and it gets brought back in to the asbestos antidote. And that's why it is the asbestos antidote, because it is that kind of fix. It's the shot in the arm to get rid of this issue once and for all from you, and you no longer have to worry about it. And it is that kind of fully autonomous system that works in the background.
Yeah. So just to summarise then, so stage 1 is a diagnosis. This is where you get to finally understand exactly where you currently are with asbestos management. We then move to stage 2, which is the identification. This is where you get to see the exact results and the asbestos risks facing your business. We then move you to stage 3, which is the treatment phase. This is where everything gets taken care of and your concerns are finally removed. We then move to the education stage, which is stage 4. And this process is rolled out to everyone and that reduces your risk of exposure. And then finally, the annual checkup, which is stage 5, health check. This is where you finally prove everything is working and the weight can finally be lifted off your shoulders.
So ultimately, if you're sitting there right now thinking, this all sounds great, but how the hell do I go about any of this? Well, you can contact us at Acorn, and what we're offering is, 1, we'll send you out a copy of the asbestos antidote so you can read it for yourself. It's packed full of other information, other areas where you can get education materials from us to kind of further identify where you're sitting currently and just to see more globally, really, about asbestos and how it is affecting your business. Or alternatively, if you're sitting there right now thinking, I need this, I need somebody to come in and help me and assist me, well, what we can do is we're booking in 20-minute strategy session calls. All you've got to do is pick up the phone and speak to Laura on our telephone number, which is 01604 648 928. Or alternatively, send an email to south@acornasbestos.co.uk and quote free asbestos management strategy session. And what we'll do off the back of that, we're not going to bombard you with sales and all the rest of it. All we're literally going to do is we're going to book you in for a 20-minute strategy call with one of our asbestos consultants. They're going to run through a load of questions, and by the end of that call, we'll have more of an overview of where you're at. And at the end of that call, we'll send you a full report of exactly what we've discussed and what we believe your next steps should be. And once you've got that, you're then in the kind of stage where you are informed and you can then proceed and start looking at what you're going to do and how you're going to tackle your asbestos issue, which might be, you might be competent and happy to move on and do all these things yourself. However, if not, you now know there is a framework that sits there, and it's, like I said at the beginning of the call, it's a whipping post. So you know where we're at with it. You can explain to your bosses where you're at. You know where you're going. You've got that full overview picture. So if you have got an issue and you have got concerns, please, please, please just reach out to us and we will assist you with the Acorn Asbestos Antidote today.
Great. Well, I hope you found that useful and insightful. Yeah, like Ian said, if you do need any help, you know where to find us. Okay? Remember, asbestos first, not last.